Hello everyone, this is Mike and I will be doing my very first video here. This will be the beginner series for Omaha High-Low, 8 or better. Essentially what I will be doing is giving you the basics on how split games work, how to play your hands accordingly, as well as how to read the boards, which is very, very important. Looks like we'll be the very next hand in the big blind. Essentially what you want to do is play hands that work well both high and low. How high-low hands work is you have a high pot and a low pot. In order to qualify for the low hand, there has to be at least 3 cards on the board that are at 8 or lower, and an ace does also count as a low card. So ace is a very powerful card in this game. I would actually say that never enter a pot without an ace in your hand. If there is no qualifying low, meaning that there are no 3 cards that are below an 8 and no one has 2 cards to go with it that are also unpaired below an 8 to match it, then there's just the high pot only. So in this instance, ace deuce would be the nut low draw. Ace deuce of spades would actually be a nut low and nut straight draw, or I'm sorry, nut low and nut flush draw. It's getting checked around here. Hopefully we'll get into some situations where we can talk about just the basics. Generally, just you want to play hands that go mostly for lows, so you can free roll towards a high, as opposed to playing high hands and getting free rolled essentially. And a lot of times you're either just going to get half the pot or you're going to get none of the pot at all. So here flush comes in, ace 4 would be the best low hand. And ace 4 with ace something of spades would be the best hand. That's another key point of Omaha, is that you can use any 2 cards for the low end, and you can use the same or any 2 cards for the high hand. Looks like no one has a low here. Oh, there we go. So 2 pair for high and the nut low for low. So here we have a very marginal hand that a lot of people like to play. General rule is that you want to play low hands first and foremost. If you don't play low hands, you want to play the high hands next in line. The absolute worst hands are hands with middle cards, 9, 8, 5, 6. And this is a perfect example. I flopped 2 pair and my hand is basically worthless. Tons of straight draws out there, even backdoor lows, and even this person bets, but there's basically every single card that comes is bad. So we're just going to play it safe. Even if I wasn't doing the video for illustrating table image, I would probably fold that hand. There's just no value there. I'm basically drawing to 4 outs, and that card, Queen Jack, gets there. Even like King 10, King 9, all sorts of variations of hands get there. And then my 2 pair gets counterfeited. So good fold on my part. And got a check fest going here. Someone has to have something. So guy had the straight, but checked it, which is not bad. A lot of times when there's paired boards, they're not exactly. A lot of times when there's a paired board in Omaha, there's going to be a full house more often than in Hold'em. So here I have a decent hand out of the blinds. I have ace queen 9-5, has some decent value for high. Got a suited diamonds. I'm not going to raise with it. We'll just complete here and see a flop. There we go. So here we flop basically nothing. The 1 club in my hand is irrelevant. We have no low. We have a ace 5, but there's plenty of other low draws that beat us, and we have no flush draw. So we're just going to check fold. So in that spot there, ace deuce with clubs is a hand that's going to be the nuts a lot of the time, unless obviously if the board pairs. So you want to look for situations where even in that spot, even if you flop it, you want to be, and there you go. Like I had ace ace three of clubs, which is, other than ace deuce hitting him for the low on the board pairing, then that was going to be a scoop basically no matter what, especially with the way the hand played out. So here I have trip kings, terrible hand, even in high. I'm just going to let it go. I'm hoping to get into some interesting situations here, especially this being the first video, but if not, I can just stress the keys when you're starting out is to play very tight. Only enter in with, I would say, ace deuce 3, ace deuce 4. The fourth card is kind of inconsequential, but if you have ace deuce 3, 4, that's fine. Keeps you, almost guarantees you won't get counterfeited. Ace deuce 3, 5. If you don't have that, any high card above a 10 is a good card to have. So like ace deuce 4 king, ace deuce 4 queen, those are hands that can work both ways. Here the best possible hand would be deuce 4 for the wheel and a 5 high straight, which is essentially the same thing. And there it is. So someone flopped with deuce 4, 5, 8. They flopped a wrap low draw, meaning any card that they hit was going to give them the low, and 3 other cards was going to give them a wheel. So it was a very strong hand. Those are the kind of hands you want to look for, although we didn't have an ace in it, but sometimes you can't ask for everything. The only reason I stress not to play those hands starting out is that sometimes you'll flop the second or third best low and you'll have no idea where you're at. And you want to, when you're first starting out to play mixed games, high-low games, or any form of poker that is, you want to play a very tight strategy, get a feel for the flow of the game, get a feel for how your opponents play, and then once you get comfortable, then you can start having a little more liberty in the hands that you play and the lines that you take with certain hands, especially in fixed limit games, which other than no limit hold'em and no limit deuce to 7, basically every game is either pot limit or fixed limit. In fixed limit, you generally have to show the best hand. Now in this spot, I actually would have flopped the nut low. The reason I didn't play this hand is, besides the fact that it's total garbage, even though I would have made trips here, is that even if I flop deuce 3, even if I flop perfect, which that is, I have no real shot at the high other than 4, 5. And in this case, you'll see that I had nothing. I would have actually got scooped. I would have ended up getting quartered. So it's important, even if you flop the low hand, a lot of times you want to avoid those situations because you're either getting you have almost no chance of winning the high and the low, and a lot of the times if someone else has the same low, you're getting quartered. So unless it's like a five-handed pot, there's really no sense in getting involved in that. Fortunately, we've seen a lot of low flops, so we can kind of see how the low hands work. Unfortunately, I haven't really been in there. So in this hand, I would have had paired the deuce, had a 4-6, so my hand would have been 7-6, 4 deuce ace, which is not very good. And my hand would have actually gotten counterfeited. I would have made 2 pair, but the wheel comes in. Basically, any better 2 pair beats me, so you have to be very careful with the hands that you decide to play. Looks like there was a 3-way chop with a live 5 there. Here's another marginal hand. The big thing about, other than playing their good hands, is also staying patient. If I could pick one subject that I think a lot of beginning players and players who are trying to improve lack, is the patience to wait for hands, not get impatient. Because for one, good poker is not about being able to play a lot of hands and get in there and try to outplay your opponents. A lot of it starts with plugging leaks, playing the fewer hands that you do more aggressively. The way I've always put it is that save the bets that you would play marginal hands weakly to play your good hands strongly. That's the quickest way to see a profit and to see a change in your profitability. Patience is not a good thing, easy thing, especially in poker, especially when you get hand after hand that's just so marginal. You just have to grind it out and wait for those edges and push them.